Hey friends, welcome back to Stronger Every Day. My name's Chrissy, and today we're going to do a video on why is mental health issues on the rise, right? I don't think you can deny that it is, and I'll go over some statistics here in a little bit, but first I wanted to read 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. So you should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be very difficult times, for people will love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents, and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. They will be unloving and unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. They will be cruel and hate what is good. They will betray their friends, be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than God. They will act religious, but they will reject the power that can make them godly. Stay away from people like that. So I wanted to jump into some statistics. Now, this clearly talks about the times we're in, correct? So we have the last days will be very difficult times. I think, and I know every generation has thought this, that we're in the last days. We're in the last days. And to be honest, every day we go, we're closer to the last days. To me, over the last decade-ish, and in particular the last 3 to 4 years, has clearly been some of this verse. So it talks about very difficult times. People themselves will love only money and themselves. They'll be boastful and proud, scoffing at God. They're ungrateful. They consider nothing sacred. They're unloving and unforgiving. They slander others. They have no self-control. They betray friends. They're reckless. They're prideful. I can think of about 1,000 situations that fits right into. Again, that's 2 Timothy 3 through 5, I believe it is. So I wanted to give you some statistics that I looked up, and I think they're fairly interesting. So in the early 70s, 89% of people considered themselves Christian. And by the late 2010s, only 71% considered themselves Christians. So these are a little bit older statistics. So so we just heard those statistics that 89% in the late 70s considered themselves Christians. However, people that attend church in the early 70s, only 53% attended monthly or more. 38% nearly every week or more. By the late 2010s, 43% attended monthly and 28% attended nearly every week. So those numbers keep dwindling down. People that believe in God, people that consider themselves Christians, and then people that actually attend church. And then in that, you would have a separate group of people that actually listen to the word and follow this word. This is not just a book to read. The seat you sit in at church is not just something to turn around and feel that it's warm, right? You're not there as a seat warmer. You're there to learn and go out and be the hands and feet of God, be the light of God, be the salt of God. Your purpose is not to sit in a church. Sitting in a church doesn't make you a Christian. Your purpose isn't to sit in church for an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours, however long your service lasts, and then you act however you want to act the other 6.5 days. Right? It's to go out and be the hands and feet. It's to learn and be as Christ-like as possible. And we clearly tend to get away from that. Why is that? Because we're taking God out of everything, right? We've taken him out of our schools. We're taking him out of our government buildings. We don't want anything that resonates with him anywhere publicly, malls, shopping centers, outlets, stores. We don't want any resemblance of God at all in any of those places. We don't mind bringing in other things that are not Christ-like, but anything that talks about God, we don't want anything to do with him. The only time certain people want to talk about God is when tragedy happens. Well, where's this God of yours? Well, he's not a genie in a bottle, right? You can't just rub him and he's going to come out and take care of some things. People have free will. That would be the argument if people didn't have free will, is, well, God's controlling and he takes over your mind and he doesn't allow you to make your own decisions. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation for some people. And to be honest, people that feel that way, sometimes they're not going to hear the truth because God's not going to let them hear the truth. They've chosen to shut off their mind to him and shut off their heart to him. And so no matter what truth comes out, they're not going to hear that truth. They're going to hear what they've already determined in their mind is true. So we're too busy. How many times do you ask somebody, hey, how have you been? What have you been up to? Busy, I'm busy, you know. Or can you help me do this? I'm too busy. I'm too busy. We're busy, all right? As a society, we're busy trying to do anything and everything we can do to keep up with our neighbors, to keep up our image, to keep up our bank account, to keep up our homes. You know, there's depending on where you live and what you think, you know, well, you should have a $500,000 home or a $750,000 home. It should be in a gated neighborhood. You should drive the nicest car, have the nicest furniture, wear the nicest clothes, get your hair done, your eyelashes done, your lips done, get your, you know, your face peeled. You should have your makeup done, your hair. Your kids should go to private schools. They should have the best of everything. You should go on vacation 3 times a year. And then we post all of that on social media. Obviously, I do enjoy social media. That's the platform I use to reach you all. But I think it can be taken out of context. You know, well, they go on vacation 3 times a year, so I want to go on vacation 3 times a year. First off, you don't know what they had to do to get that vacation, right? So maybe they both work, or maybe the main supporter in that home works 80 hours a week, right, to take a vacation a year that gets posted all over social media and makes you think it's better than it is. Maybe they ended up charging $10,000 on their credit card so they could take said vacation, and they're going to be paying that vacation off. Maybe their credit cards are maxed. Maybe their relationship is strained because they have so much material things to make them look and feel better. It works in the opposite side of the spectrum too. So the more homesteader crowd, right? You know, do you have the pantry of all glass jars of all the things that you've preserved, or do you have stuff from the store? You know, do you have the 5 freezers full of meat that have been either you processed yourself, which is the way it should be, or you purchased locally, we'll tolerate that, or heaven forbid you went to the grocery store. You know, do you live off the grid, or do you have electricity and water? You know, there's always going to be that spectrum of things, right? Of what, depending on where we live, what the need is to meet there. And the devil, that's his plan. Less of God, more busy. Less of God, more busy. Nick and I have had to look deep at different obligations we have outside of this home and outside of our relationship with God, because we've gotten to that mindset of we're so busy we can't fit in certain things. Here's the thing. Listen to this and understand. Your life should fit around God, not the other way around. Your life, your work, your home, your I can't say that word, activities, sports, hobbies, whatever, should fit around God, not the other way around. Let that sink in for a second, because is that how you're living? Are you living for the Lord? Or are you living for the world? And when you throw in mental illness on top of that, you feel pulled, I feel pulled in 100 different directions to try to meet everyone's expectation of what Chrissy should do. And what I've had to reel back in is I'll meet God's expectation. I'll try to meet God's expectation, and then he'll handle the rest, right? I have made a conscious choice that my day starts off with God, that I start off studying his word, and that the rest of what needs to get done will fall in. Is my yard perfect all the time? No. We have two dependable, reliable vehicles to drive. We're blessed. We have a roof over our heads. We're blessed. Right now, I have air conditioning going. I have heat going. I have water going. I have internet to be able to talk to you going. When I'm tired and my arthritis is kicking in, I have a soft bed to lay in. I have a heating pad to use. I have pain reliever, so a Tylenol to take. We're blessed. I'm not trying to keep up with anybody else. I'm trying to be the best version of me. And we've gotten so far away from that. Our servant heart and our wanting to be as godlike as possible is so far in the distance for so many people. And we wonder why mental health is on the rise. Then, heaven help, you talk about mental illness and you admit that you have it, then you're attacked from both sides. You know, you're attacked from Christians who think that that's a sin, and you're attacked from everyone else because you're unable to meet their expectations. Friends, I miss things all the time. Birthday parties, I miss some family functions, I miss some events that God's saying, I don't want you doing that. There's things I miss. Some from God telling me no, and some because I can't process that day, right? It's stopping the nonsense of being too busy and the way the world's going. So keeping up with the Joneses, how much everything costs. Exact same house, hasn't changed, nothing's changed. In 1995 was $130,000. In 2005, so 10 years later, it jumped to $332,500, so $100,000 plus more. Same house, 10-year difference. 2015, that exact same house is now $289,200. In 2020, and I guarantee you it's gone up since then, it's $329,000 for the exact same house. It's went up $200,000 in value. One of our neighbors, the guy that used to own it, bought it for around $80,000. It's I don't know, 1,800 square feet, 4 bed, 2 bath. It's on about 5 acres. He sold it for almost $200,000. Like 2-3 years later. Milk in 1995. Now, this varies depending on where you live, on what kind of milk. Is it lactose free? Is it organic? Is it brand name? Is it store name? You know, it depends, but they're using the exact same example. $2.50 in 1995. By 2023, it's $4.31. Literally every single thing we have has gone up in price. Every single thing. And you cannot tell me that part of it is that things are costing more. We're paying our workers theoretically more. So prices have to rise, right? Gas prices are astronomical. Things are having to go up some, right? I get that. But you can't tell me that now if you want a home, so if you want that $329,000 home that went up $200,000, then in our area, in the part of town we live in, $13 an hour is pretty good wage. You're making, that's considered pretty good money here. That is less than $30,000 a year. That's about a little over $27,000 a year. Then you take out taxes, then you take out insurance, then you take out 401k, then you take out whatever deduction you're having taken out. You're bringing home about $20,000 to $22,000 a year. That is not going to afford you probably even the $130,000 house, right? So in essence, we're segregating people even more, right? Instead of building up our neighborhoods that need a little love and need a little help, we're just letting those decrepit. And then, well, if you really want to be safe, you can get in this gated neighborhood, but it's going to cost you $750,000. Oh, by the way, why don't you go to college and you can get in debt $60,000, and then maybe you can find a job making $20 an hour. You're still not going to live in a $750,000 house. So now we're pulling both adults in the relationship into working full-time. Some are working more than one full-time job to keep up with what? You know, I found this on the web. Siri. So Nick and I live in a manufacturer's home. It's about 1,300 square feet. It's 3 bed, 2 bath. We live on his family's land, which is about 13 acres. We live in our means. We rarely go on vacation. And even when we go on vacation, it's more of like we're going to see family for a couple days. As far as taking actual vacations in the 11 plus years we've been married, I think we've taken 2, and they were weekend trips where we weren't going to visit family. We get in this mindset of, well, so-and-so got a new car, so now I need to get a new car, or I deserve a new car. Well, you if you can afford it, go for it. But what we end up doing is we post all these pictures of our fabulous vacations and our fabulous new car and our new wardrobe and our brand new home and how perfect our family looks and our professional pictures. And then we don't say, oh, by the way, that cost $10,000. And
I'm not sure I understand.
That cost $10,000 and I had to charge it. Or we bought new furniture, but now we're making payments on it. So now you went from a base of, say, your bills were $2,000 a month to now you've got the new car, you've got the new wardrobe, you've got the new home, you've got the private school for your kids, you've got the family vacation. So now those $2,000 debts you had every month for the basics have went to $6,000. But we're still posting pictures on social media that make it look like everything's perfect and life's great. Not to mention we're having to work longer, work overtime, work more hours, be more busy, pull ourselves away from the Lord. And I love the example of, do you have to go to church to be a Christian? I will tell you that I do not think that you have to go to church, you have to attend church to be a Christian. Here's the thing with that though, and I love this example. A pastor walked into a friend of his who had stopped coming to church. And he walked in and he said, I don't remember the story exactly, but he says, you know, hey Nick, how are you? And he said, I'm fine. So they sit down in front of a fireplace and they just sit there, and the pastor doesn't say anything. And the fire starts dwindling and dwindling and dwindling and dwindling until finally they stoke it and it comes back up. It's the same thing. You need to surround yourself with godly Christian people. That doesn't mean that we're all sinners, right? So that doesn't mean that you cut out people viciously in your life. But you need to have a support group. Look at Jesus' example, right? He came to earth. He had 12 disciples, 12 friends. He had 3 core in that core. Now he still was around the masses, but he had that inner circle. There's something about going to church and experiencing what you experience there. It's something about being live in the building and experiencing God move. Can you experience him on your couch? Yes. It's something about that relationship that you develop with other Christians. We are meant to be with other people. We're not meant to be solitary. You know, here's the thing. If you're so knowledgeable in the word, then why don't we all come to your house on the day that we worship and just sit around you and listen to you talk, since you don't need to be in church. Now, there's certain circumstances, if you're sick or if you're immobile, if you're bedbound, of course you can't leave your house to go. But you know, for years and years, Nick and I watched church on TV. When I first moved to this area, we couldn't really find a church that just felt like home. Understand this, no church is perfect, and those people sitting in the pews or in the bleachers or in the stadium seats or in the chairs with you, they're not perfect either, just like you're not. So at some point, church is going to hurt you, or someone in the church is going to hurt you. You have to be strong enough in your faith to realize they're human, they made a mistake, and move on. As far as finding a church, we struggled to find one that just felt like home. It felt like where God wanted us. And so a friend of mine is a pastor in my hometown. We went to school together all through grade school, middle school, or elementary, middle school, and high school. And so we were watching him. It's a drive for us to get there. It's about an hour and a half, and then with trying to find parking and get a spot, we'd probably have to leave 2.5 hours early. And so we would watch him on TV, and for 2 or 3 years, that's what we did. Maybe longer, probably longer than that. probably 4 or 5 years. We watched him on TV, and we talked about making a day of it and going to church maybe once a month, just so we could experience everything. But then we found a local church that we love, and we go all the time. Here's the thing, it's just we're so busy that we're pushing God away. That's the very last thing that we need to do in today's society. God is coming back. I personally feel like, keep in mind, no one knows when he's coming back. There are signs, but no one knows the exact day. I feel like it's soon. Will it be in my lifetime? I don't know that, but you don't either, right? It's wrapping our head around that society is pushing us so far away from God, and we wonder why we're struggling with mental illness, friends. It's obvious why we're struggling. We're struggling because everyone is competing with everyone else, right? It's all about fame, it's all about fortune, it's all about money, it's all about status, it's all about power. We've gotten so far away from a servant heart. And I'll give you an example. When I first moved here, Nick and I's upbringings were very different. And I first moved here, Nick had a little beagle named Roscoe. He passed last year. And I can tell this story now. I don't think they watch my channel anyway, but Nick's dad had been out doing some stuff, and I can't remember the exact situation. Either the door got left open or it got blown open or something, and Roscoe had possibly gotten into, I don't remember what it was. But so we had come over, and Loretta said, just grab him and take him to the vet, don't say a word. So we grabbed Roscoe, we took him to the vet. They did an examination, said they didn't think he'd gotten anything. They gave him a shot of, I think, vitamin K or something, and sent him on his way. He was fine. She wasn't withholding the truth from him. I'm sure she eventually told him that had happened. And if she didn't, she wasn't withholding the truth. She was protecting his feelings, because he would have been crushed had something he'd done led to the death of Roscoe. I had never experienced that before, because what my mother would have done, and I've said before, she struggled with mental health issues, and obviously years before I did, and it was very frowned upon back then. That would have been ammo, right? That would have been, you know, she would have called my dad, made sure he knew what he did, and that this dog was sick, and we were gonna have to take him to the vet. He probably killed him, and it would have been a whole scenario that Nick's dad never probably even knew about. Now, did she eventually tell him? Probably, but it wasn't hiding the truth from him. It was protecting him. It was having a servant heart to love him through something that could potentially be a tragedy. And I had never experienced that on my home life. It would have been ammo, right? It's the servant heart we've gotten so far away from, because we're too busy with our own progressions, with our own life, with our own needs, with our own wants, with what's going to work for us. It's sickening to me how busy this world has become, and the only thing that it's doing is pushing us further and further away from God. And it makes us say, well, I'm a Christian, so I'm one of the 89% back in the 1970s, but only 39% of those went to church. You know, and like I said, I'm not saying you have to go to church to be Christian, but I'm saying it's the time we invest, right? When you first meet someone and you want them to be in your life, you want that to be your husband, you want that to be your wife, that's all you think about, that's all you do, that's all you pursue. You put your best foot forward, you put your best self on display. You work so extremely hard to get to the wedding, and you think you're done. In actuality, you're just starting, friends. Women and men, listen to me. You're just starting once you get married. But what it does is it makes you think that, you know, now we need to get all these things done. We need to get the house, we need to have the kids, we need to have the cars, I need to have a career, we need to have stability and insurance and this and that. And let's fit God into our lives. Let's fit it, you know, we'll put him in there somewhere instead of him being the center and us working around. I can say that I've not done this correctly most of my life. I was the put God in my life, but I'm busy doing other things. I can say that it's been detrimental for my mental health to do it that way. And it's been night and day difference to do it where God's the center and everything else works around him. Does that upset people sometimes? Of course it does. Because their expectation of what I should be doing with my time doesn't meet that expectation. What I've come to realize is that God's always going to have my heart in the right place if I'm following him and putting him first. So if your expectation falls short, that's between you and the Lord. But as long as I'm doing what he wants me to do, he's going to have me get done what needs to be done. And so it's the old adage of keeping up with the Joneses, right? I could care less. I could care less if my neighbors make $1 million or make $10,000 a year. I could care less. It doesn't matter to me. I'm competing with me. I'm not competing with my husband. I'm not competing with my family, my friends, my neighbors. I'm competing with Chrissy. And my focus is on being the best version of me. And I have not been that person until the last 16 months. And I'm still very much a work in progress. Don't let this world consume you with being too busy. There's always things that you can cut out that aren't as important. I know time is a struggle for us, but there's always things that you can cut out. I don't need to spend 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day on my phone, on social media apps, checking Instagram, checking TikTok, checking Facebook, checking Snapchat. I don't need to spend time on that. I can take that 20 minutes and put it into God's word. All right, I don't need to watch a video at night to go to sleep. I can take that time. It's what your priorities are, right? There's always the time. It's just finding it. And it's sad. It's so sad to me that we have pushed our society to a point that if you want anything, that house that would have cost you $130,000 in 1995 is now going to cost you probably, let's just say, $350,000 in 2023. And so the only way you can afford that is if, you know, you work 4 jobs between the two of you. And then the demand we have on women, first let's just give a little shout out to homemakers, okay? Homemakers rock. Like, let me tell you what my job consists of that I don't necessarily get a physical paycheck to do. And I feel like for me, for a long time, I had worked since I was in middle school, and the fact that I didn't have a monetary check to my name really bothered me. Homemakers. So I get up every day, this house is cleaned, all of our laundry's done. We do probably just everything that's washable has to get washed at least once a week. We have a lot of fur babies, and we also have allergies. So you can kind of probably tell a lot in my voice. It's kind of raspy. It's allergies. So every week, all of our bedding, all of their bedding, all of our slip covers, this is a slip cover, all of these get washed. That's 10 loads of laundry right there. Not counting clothes or towels. Just bedding and slip covers and the kids, the stuff they lay on. The stuff they're supposed to lay on, let's just throw that out there. So, we probably do 15 loads of laundry a week. And by we, most of the time it's me. The floors have to get swept. They have to get mopped. The windows, we have window art from the kids, so those have to be cleaned. We have chickens that have to be fed and watered. They have 3 waterers. Those waterers have to be topped off and maintained clean. The goats have 2 waterers. That has to be taken care of. We have 5 goats and 32 chickens. They have to be handled. We have outside and inside animals. Those have to be handled. We have supper that has to be made, groceries that have to be done. We have bills that have to be paid. We have finances that have to be managed. We have birthday parties. We have birthday presents. We have birthday cards. We have all of the things that usually get kind of typically passed to the woman to handle. We have yards that need to be mowed, yards that need to be weed eated, gardens that need to be pulled, produce that needs to be processed. We have made from scratch or even cooking period meals that need to be made. We have a plethora of things. We have kids that need to be taken to and from school. They need to have homework done, need to have baths done, need to have, you know, you're supposed to take time to spend with God every day. You're supposed to take time to do some kind of physical activity every day. You're supposed to take time to maintain yourself every day, or the not necessarily maintain, but like the self time, right? I'm trying to think. Those are just the basics. Those are just the very, very minimum basics of what the homemaker does every day, right? I'm exhausted at the end of each day trying to keep up with everything. So way more exhausted. I look back and I'm thinking, how did I manage everything when I worked 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week? How did I manage? And I was on autopilot. Like, the house wasn't as clean as it should be. I spent my whole off day doing all of these things, and then it didn't really get touched again until the next off day. It was living to maintain, right? Instead of living for the Lord. And I can't express how important that is in today's society, that we take the time to stop the insanity of well, I'm busy living for, I'm busy. No, friends, stop, right? If you need to downsize your house so that it takes some financial pressure off and you get to enjoy your family and get to enjoy God more, downsize your house. If you have things that are costing you money, downsize some of that. All of this it's truly saddening and disheartening that we keep pushing. Meanwhile, you're supposed to do all this on $13 an hour, right? Or even $15, even $20 an hour, right? It's still not going to be enough money for the lifestyle that we're pushing people to lead. What we're pushing people to do is pushing them away from God. Raising prices, raising everything. It's pushing us as a society away from God. And then you add mental health in there, and you're trying to figure all this out in your head with everything you've got going on in there. It is no wonder that people by the thousands are struggling with mental health issues. And to say, I'm always blown away when a celebrity commits suicide and there's this outpouring of love for them, right? About, oh, that's terrible. I guarantee had they spoke out 6 months earlier, or a year earlier, or 5 years earlier, they would have been condemned. Well, who do you think you are? You're a celebrity. You shouldn't be depressed. You shouldn't have anxiety. Your life's gravy. It would have been millions of people coming at them, judging them for being depressed while having the privileged lifestyle. But then when they actually commit suicide, oh, well, that's terrible. We need to talk about mental health. Mental health needs to be talked about all the time. All the time. People are struggling. I've said this before. Try to get into a counselor or a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Try to get into one of those places for help. It's months waiting list. You are not alone, friends. Don't let society push you into A, straying away from God because you're too busy trying to keep up, and B, thinking that you are alone, that you're the only one. No one's dealing with what you're dealing with. I am. If you don't have another single example in this world of someone struggling with mental health, I am. I am, friends. You're not alone. If you think it's just me and you're not alone. I promise you millions of other people are struggling with what we're struggling with, but yet we try to keep it quiet because really you should just keep up the image. You're happy, you're healthy, life's great, you're busy, you're staying, you're buying the new home, you're doing all this, and we kind of wonder why people are struggling with mental illness in the worst way. 2 reasons. We're too busy for God. We're pushing him away from everything. I always end every video this way. It's my hope and prayer that you feel it. God loves you. I love you. Your friends love you. Your family loves you. And we need you here. We'll see you in the next one, friends. Bye.